Okay. So let's get right into this. So I told you guys I would have a video talking about the math and the proof and the evidence and, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to turn the camera off just a second, just so you can kind of see what's written down there. 1620, 1640, 1640, 1660, 1580, 1600, okay. No, I think this is really simple, and this is kind of why it bothered me, because a lot of people, especially in the comments, are like, no, here's the math, and it's just so simple, you're right. But see, the thing is you can get the right numbers, but if you're doing the wrong equation, it doesn't matter. So if you're not factoring in things that actually do matter, then it's kind of irrelevant whatever math you think you came up with. So two things. One, I want to say right off the bat that I don't think Agar is content worth preparing for, which would eliminate the value, right? One, and it's already, but it's even if you do think it's content worth going into hardcore, it's still a better value to save your advanced toning for T4. But I'll play 50-50 and say first I'll make my first point, then I'll make that point later, right? With the math. But the first point I want to make is that if you are following my logic and you don't think that Agar is important content to be on eye level 4, which it's not, it's the beginning of a new system. So all my logic from before applies now, but extremely. But anyhow, especially with all the passes and stuff they're giving us. But if you follow my logic and you don't believe that Agar is super important to be at 1660. It's really not 1660. 1680, if anything, is the only push that's justifiable here. So actually even less so if 1660 is what you did your advanced toning for, it's even more embarrassing, to be completely honest with you. But just TLDR, cutting to the chase of everything that I'm trying to say here is, okay, we took a cut because I don't want to get too far off track. I want to make very few edits on this too. But either way, the point that I'm trying to get at is that the cost would be, less. In Tier 3 than it would be in Tier 4, which we now have proof of. We've seen all the advanced toning costs in both versions. It's more expensive in Tier 4, and what that implies is that the savings is more in Tier 4. You will be saving more value. So then we have to talk about why you would take, because it's mathematically 100% actually. Let's do the math first and show you stuff. So I want to show you two concepts. This is actually how I figured it out, turning the camera off again. So this is the picture I was seeing in my head and how I actually knew you guys were all wrong pretty quickly on this, because I understand the content. I've been doing this since the beginning of the game. That's the fucking difference. Y'all are pseudo guys who are doing it after the fact, after I pointed it out. And that's why you'll just never be able to compete, because you weren't doing it back then. So you don't really understand the system back then. You don't get the game, period. But anyhow, for a lot of you, it's going to make sense. So this is the honing bar in the middle, all right, the total honing cost. And the game has followed a really realistic the same scheme every single time, and it's because it doesn't have a choice. It's how math works, so it has to. So anytime we have a threshold from that we have to push, there's going to be a 0 to 100% bar, right? And then if you break it up into phases, there'll be 0 to 100% bars of the phases, right? So every time, so going from 1300 to 1370 had a 0 to 100% cost, right? And towards the beginning of the push, it'll be 20% of the cost, and then 30% of the cost towards the 50%, and then the last 50% is usually in the other half, right? Which makes sense. And I'm really breaking this up in a way that's not necessarily accurate, just to depict the point. But the point is that we all know this, the earlier costs are usually cheaper than the later cost. It's not rocket science, and that's why I'm saying it's basic math, and it's really disturbing that so many of you drink the punch of these other guys before you just question basic shit. It's insanity, but my delusions are there. Okay. But anyhow, 1300 to 1370 is about the 0 to 20%. And if you follow this scheme and you understand that, then this was very easy to see without any actual mathematical evidence, because this is the math. And if you look at 1620 to 1640, that's free. That would be 1370, that same shit. 1640 to 1660 is essentially the exact same as the push from 1490 to 1520, or the push, which I'm really comparing it to, is the recent push, but it actually compares even better to the Vault and Vicus push, and I'll get to that later. And that's how I kind of think I know where the content's going. But either way, it's because if you look at a pattern overall here, it's actually just reversing it. It was 5 pieces of content to 3 pieces of content to 3 pieces of content to 5 pieces of content. Just saying, or phases of pushing. But I noticed that I did all the normal eye levels for a reason here too, because it's the only thing that actually matters. That's how they're basing the progression of the game. Everything beyond that was made for whales and elites. But anyways, so the push between the linears I'm making here between 1580 to 1600 is the same cost as 1640 to 1660. And actually 1640 to 1660 might even be cheaper, I'm not sure. But the point is it's the same threshold, 20%. And then 1660 to 1680 is the same from 1600 to 1610, same threshold. It's that next 30%. And then the last push, 1680 to 1690, which I actually think it's 1710. Obviously, we're going to get to that later, is the same as the 1610 to 1620 or 1630 push. Keep that in mind, which would be this. Now, I want to go show you guys something else, which was this. So we use this to get a little bit of the basic math, and I just want to pull up also something for context because I think it is important. We're going to bring up the Discord, and I didn't even realize that we had this conversation back here, but Despair's smart, dude. This guy's super smart. Like, he knows sometimes without knowing, and I did, like, me and him chilled in chat, and I had to kind of, like, he's actually the reason I can prove this better now is because he questioned it so much that we went deeper and deeper into it, and he just kept becoming more and more of a believer. But the reality is he actually knew what he was talking about here. And it's just more proof that even somebody extremely intelligent like Despair, if you just listen to these KR guys without questioning the small aspects of what they're saying, you're going to fall short on it. You know what I mean? And I hope he doesn't get insulted because I'm saying this in admiration that sitting with him actually allowed me to depict this even better than I could. But just using this real quick for reference, just because this website can be confusing otherwise, the range that we're going to be looking at first will actually be 1660 through 1680 because that's where they're telling you to use the advanced toning level to save. And if you look just real quickly, it's 4%. Versus over here, you were saving at this range here, which is 1.5% and 0.5%. And that's relevant not only for here, because the percents are just worse. Makes no sense why you would compare these two, because these are easy, actual natural taps. But then in addition to not making sense, if you compare even just those costs, or I want to bring up the paint, the reason it doesn't make sense is because in this scheme, it's not actually that same place on the bar. It's just not. It's not 1660 and 1680 is not going to be the last 50% of the cost. It's going to be in this range here, which is the 30% of the cost, which isn't what they intended that advanced toning. And that's the other thing. We have to look at advanced toning as what it is, which is a saving mechanic, a honing saving mechanic. That's it, period, the end. It has nothing to do with T3 or T4. As a matter of fact, the T4, they put it in their T4 content stuff on Kazaros' Island. So I think you guys are really silly here, and the math is really obvious. And even if we don't go all the way to where I want to go with this, but we just go to, I think it's plus 16. I do have to keep referencing this because even I get confused by it. But yeah, plus 16 is 70. So even if we do 15, 16, 17, 18. So 15, the cost of 15, 16, 17, and 18. And also this only, I think, what does one tap or one piece or something. So you have to actually do the math times like 5 or 6. I forget. We did this already just to prove it, but I'm now just showing you where you can go to do your own math if you don't believe me. And this is what I'm trying to say. So they're comparing the wrong range. First off, blatantly. Like, that's what's fucking hilarious about this. Is these kids think they're so smart, but they're so stupid, and it hurts because it's like, this is the shit they provide us. You guys should know. You're giving us the info, and you just don't know how to use it. You don't know anything, honestly, and that's why I think one of you guys should sell out already and just bring me on a podcast. Like, at this point, and I'll try to keep calm. I will try not to say things that would obviously hurt your channel, but then again, just don't upload the video if it's bad, or edit out the parts where I act like an ass. The reality is I don't even act like that. But you guys need my input. I'm sorry. You just genuinely do. You don't know what the hell you're doing. You don't. And again, it's your version of the game now. So you can't even say, he just looked ahead at our version. No, you don't even know your own version anymore. It's crazy. But yeah, so back on point, so I don't get too side tangented. It's not adding up, what you guys are doing. It's just not the appropriate range where you'd be comparing. And the appropriate range where you'd be comparing, actually, this is what's funny. Isn't even 1665, 1670, 1675, 1680. That's not even the right range either, because again, you were going for 30 to 50, 30 to 50, 10 and 10. No, I'm sorry, from 20 to 40. Let me rephrase that. So 1.5. So if you look at it, it's plus 19. It would actually be the exact same range here. And that's why I'm saying that you guys are calculating it incorrectly. And now, although I don't think it needs to be calculated from 19 to 23 like it was here, I actually think they're starting it one further back, which would be 17, 18. I think they want you to use it in this range, which would be way more savings than the tier 3 version, again proving my point. And you wouldn't have to do this until when? Closer to Brel release, which is like 8 months from now. So you'd be doing it closer to there to try to get into the 1690 content and then prepare for whatever the 1710 content is after that. And that's a different conversation for a different time, but we're going to get to that towards the end. But yeah, so the whole point is even if I give you the cheaper range that I think they want you to push, which would have been the 10i level from 70 to 80 and the 10i level from 80 to 90 comparatively in advanced toning, it would already be significantly cheaper than the range that they're talking about. And by cheaper, I actually mean way more expensive and amplifying the savings that you're getting in tier 4 versus the savings in tier 3. So you're going to save significantly more value over here, which ultimately is the better deal. And that's why I'm saying it like a profit. And then you got to remember that at the end of it, it's also 5x the materials, 5x the materials. So because this is 5x the materials, it's technically a factor that should be included here, is that these materials are 5x the value automatically. So even though it's brain dead simple math at the basics of it, we'll take out the basic stuff, so like it being 5x, and we'll just talk about the ranges that are improperly being used, because you guys not only can apparently do math accurately, but can't give context. You don't get the context. You don't know where it's supposed to be used. You don't understand the systems that they've given you. I don't even play the game, and I get it better than all of you. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's disturbing how stupid how many people can actually be. And also, anybody who pushed, now that I've seen it this way, because remember, I'm waking up and I'm evolving and learning with you. Now looking at it in this way, I actually realize how much dumber people were that were pushing into 1650, 1645, 1640, 1635, 1630, because never in the fucking history of the game have they ever pushed us this far. Like, it's crazy. Like, y'all are just insane. But anyways, back to the point. So again, you do have to do kind of the cost yourself, but I just wanted to show that these are actually the ranges that you should be looking at, and that's just why they're 1,000,000% wrong, is because, one, they're looking at the wrong range, but two, they're just dumb. I can't help it. They're just dumb. They're dumb and they can't help it either. Yeah, so that's essentially the linears I'm making. So now the final thing that I want to talk about, just to make sure, let me take a look at my, Wait. Let's make sure. We'll put the mic down. And yes, I'm still holding my mic. I'm poorer than I was before. Things did not get easier with the baby. They actually got more expensive. Formula is not cheap. Yeah, we're going to keep it there. So I think I am going to drop off the 1730 prediction, too, from what I said after doing all this math. Just based on the fact that... So I think it's going to be 1710 for sure. But I think it's going to be one piece of content. I think it's going to be Clown. And the reason I was saying that is because I think it's going to be a set that they give us, a set level 4. On the armor, and I could be wrong, but I think it's going to be set level 4 because it's a really easy thing to just give to us, to just give us a quick little jump on our set bonuses. It'll buy a little bit of time. It's not a bad idea. And I think it'll be a 4-man piece of content because we've had a 16-man and 2 8-man pieces of content. So I think the right thing to do would be give the 4-man lobbies a chance. Right. And there's a lot of reasons behind that, what I say about solo in another video I'm uploading, so I'm not going to get into that, but I just want to cover this stuff. So let's go ahead. It's already been 10 minutes. Let's try to cover the rest of this really quickly. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about with this is why I think Clown is the next raid, or at least what I think the next phase, why I said there'd be 5 total acts, and this was 2 of them, right? Broken up into 2. So let's go ahead and talk about that. And I could kind of be wrong, but I don't think I am. I'm not 100% sure here because of the way they broke up Echidna and Behemoth, so that I'm a little, that part's kind of like this in-between part where I'm a little confused still. But either way, in the beginning of the game, we had Argos, Vultan, Vicus, and Brel, or Clown, Brel, which adds up to 5 pieces of content. So Argos, Vultan, Vicus, Clown, Brel. 5, right? Okay, and this is where the theory gets kind of a little bit wonky, but that's why I add Behemoth and Echidna back into this. But it would go like Echidna, Behemoth, 1620, 1640, because it's in that 1630 range. So 1630 gets cut in between. Both those pieces of content kind of get added to this. So you'd have technically Thameen Hard, which is no longer valid. Like Brel Hard wasn't valid back in the day, but we're just going to say Echidna, Behemoth, Aegir, Brel, and then the content after Brel, which should, like I said, it should be... I want to say that Brel gets split up into 2 pieces, though, too, the same way it did before, so it's actually 2 pieces of content, and that's why I think people are missing this, is that it's 1680 and 1690, and there's a pretty big difference between 2 pieces of content and what they give you, so in my version, that's what Brel was for us in the past. It was a breakup of the piece into 2, hard mode and normal. Instead, they just released it instantly, and I do think the next piece of content will be a solo single piece of content, no hard mode, just Clown, and then a Vultan version. Some sort of version of Vultan, again, Beast Commander, right? Similar, could be an Echidna type thing, a replacement. So a Beast Commander, Clown, a Beast Commander, or vice versa, but I think it'll be like that, and then Khazros. So that's where I see us heading. I think it's pretty good bet. We could just have Khazros next, but we have to enter into like the Demon Realm already, or whatever, and go through his land, or maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but that's what I'm thinking. Basically... based on this, it's 1690 and 1710. So the best alt parking spot would probably be 1680. Push your mains to 1710. And then after your main is at 1710, it's not a bad idea to try to push your alts to 1710, because I'll bet that's the next Guardian that we'll probably get for the longest phase. So I guess really what I want to show too here is one final thing. because I think this makes the point. I don't think I need any more. I actually have a lot more to add to this, but I just don't think I need to. See what I'm saying? We're going to move us over here now, but I just want to show that this range, 1620, 1640, 1660, is this range, right? The next range, 1660 to 1680, is this range, right? And then the final range, the longest range you're going to be in, 1680 to 1710, is this range. But I want to point out that if you were to break this up again, that this is actually probably going to be, it's going to be more than 30. It would be like 40%, I think. And I could be getting this wrong. That's why I said this math might be a little bit janky. Yeah, that's definitely going to be wrong. So I don't want to put that. But that actually, that's why I'm saying this. That's kind of why I'm saying it is more proof, is that this 1680 to 1690 is more like, of the top 50%, only like the top 20%. And then the other 40%, the bigger part, I'm sorry, 10%, I can't do math. So that's what I'm saying. This breakdown's a little bit off, because truthfully, the push between 1640 and 1660, or like 1580 to 1600, it's actually like 5%. It's like 5 or 6% of the cost. And actually, you know what we can do to try to actually go with that, prove that, is we can pull up Maxroll, and I can actually show you the cost on Maxroll. So let's go to Maxroll real quick, pull up the resources. This will help out. But I can kind of show you exactly where you would look for this math. So we're just going to go to Econ, and we're going to go to, I think it's here, 85, yep. So this will be the cost. So you just want to go up to 1600. So if you look at that, we can pull the paint back up. We'll pull up the paint up here. Or no, we're just going to do mental math. Fuck all that. Fuck all that. Fuck all that. I ain't doing none of that. I already did enough. But yeah, so 1600, just look at the total cost. We'll use a referenceable point. We'll probably use the arrays. I think that'll be the easiest to use. We'll just use the arrays. So 1295 arrays. And then if we do the total cost to 1640, all right, it would be about 10%, actually, more accurately. So in this paint, when I do 20%, it's actually 10% of the cost. And now if we were to be a little bit more humble and take off just a 1620, then the math changes dramatically, obviously. Then it's actually more like 20%. Actually, it doesn't change that much. Then it is 20%. That's what's like. But doing more of the original cost, or closer to a more reasonable cost, it's more like 10%. Right, so, because like I said, I think you would still push 1630 normally, because you would have been farming long enough. So that's just me. But then if we do it on the end ratio, which is more important, so we're going to use the 13,000 total, and we're just going to take off, I want to put it to 1600, so there, I think, get rid of that, and we'll go to 1610. 1610 of the total cost is 1200, so that's kind of funny, because it's almost the exact same, actually, which is even better, because it's not the exact same. I said it was 10% more here, but it's actually, so if this was 10 and that was 10, do you know what I mean? 10% and 10% would make up 20. And then we do that next push, right, which is 2,700 out of the 13,000, which would be more like the actual 20%. So it's 10. It would be 10%, 10%, 20, 20%, which is 40%. We'd come up, we'd have 60% left. And then if we do the push to here, that is the 60%. Yeah, 7,000 out of 13,000 added to the other 1,200, and 2,700. Yeah, it checks out. It all kind of checks out. My numbers are a little fuzzy there, but it all checks out for the most part. And it's also basic math. That's why it checks out. It's because this is how you could do this with any of these examples, and it's going to work out, because it's the equation you're supposed to be using, and they're using the incorrect equation. Not only are they using the incorrect equation, which is funny, but they're also just adding in the wrong variables, because it wouldn't be, again, plus 13. Why would you want to save, to re-reference the Discord, why would you want to save where it's 5% and 4%? This is where they're comparing the advanced honing values to, is the 4%ers and 3%ers that max out at 6% odds to the 0.5%, the 0.5% chance. Y'all are just stupid. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. So compare it to the appropriate range, then compare the savings. And if you can somehow still come back and mathematically tell me that I'm wrong, well, congratulations. You're not only dumb, but you actually are delusional. So I'll catch you guys in the next one. I don't see. It was funny because we really did have this conversation, and even my own people were kind of questioning my dude about this, but nope, matches my calculations. Except our income is better with all our shops and events. I don't like y'all are crazy. Y'all are crazy. Y'all are crazy. So the math is really easy, and I'm sorry for anybody who couldn't get it easily. And yeah, I can't wait to show you guys my progress in the game because I have literally 100 hours playtime. But let's not rant too long. I'm going to take one more look at the bullets just to make sure I didn't miss anything. But I genuinely think that kind of explains it really fucking well. And like I said, I'm dropping the 1730 for now because I actually think the next piece of content's a 4-man content 1710. Single content, no hard, no normal. And that's what they want every one of us to try to be prepared for. And it actually makes sense because it'll be a hard push for the elites because of the way they push. And then for the casuals, it should naturally be progression. Or the natural progression should be able to guide you straight to 1710 by the time you need it. Which, for the record, it's 12 months probably from when we get Agar, if not a little sooner. But just for perspective, so you have 8 months to prepare for Brel, which is somewhat important because you need to be prepared for 1710 so you don't get gatekept, right? So Agar, I'd probably skip in the value of trying to be more prepared for Brel. And then being more prepared for Brel means you'll be able to be on eye level with everybody when they get to 1710, whatever this raid is. And that'll be the most important raid to do before we get to the phase of Kazros. So that those last 3 raids that are coming up will be the most important 3. And the one in the middle probably won't. It'll probably just be some bogus bonus damage from other system like Elixir or something. Or like a system like that. I'm not saying those systems. And then the most important will obviously be Kazros, because Kazros will be giving us our item level to jump into whatever the next content is. But yeah. And there's a good chance we could get item level out of the piece of content after whatever's next. Like the content that comes up before Kazros. It's possible, but I don't think so because they want to finish this and then move on to their next phase. So, also, I guess since I'm here, I guess I should say in the predictions 2 things that I want to say at the end of this video. One is that, or maybe I should wait. Should I wait? Should I wait or should I say that here? I'm going to wait. I'll wait. I'll hold that off for another video. But I have economic stuff and the direction of the game where I think they're going with this long term that I could talk about. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. And there's the proof for the other video. That's really all this is. So I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.